All right. Welcome to the Domestic Draft Podcast.
Man,
I'm
let's
Evan Beer
go.
with Dan Slowick. It's post-Thanksgiving, Dan. I see you got a beer. Maybe you took a couple of days off after the drinking festivities of Thanksgiving, but what are you drinking today and how was your holiday?
No days off. Play like a champion. Holiday was great. Had some friends in. Had buddy Ivan come in over from Arizona, and that's actually the beer that I'm gonna talk about. It's from Arizona, so I thought, why not? He drove over, dropped them off. Let's give this brewery a shout out. The brewery's called 12 West Brewing Company. It's from Mesa, Arizona.
All right.
It started in 2016. Co-founders Brian and Noel were kind of introduced through mutual friends, and right away they just kind of went for it. And they started off in Bar None, which is kind of like a little collective of all artisan like shops, restaurants, and also like taps, right? So they got their start there. They then moved into a 10-barrel system when that place was like getting ready to open up so they could kind of have a big production. And I've actually been there. I've been to Bar None or Barn One, but I'm pretty sure it's Bar None. It's
Yeah.
cool. There's like a restaurant, and then there's a pizza place, there's the bar, and then there's a little wine shop on the other side. And then it's part of this place there called like Agritopia, where they also have a lot of produce being grown. So it's trying to be like, farm to table, real fresh there. The beer I have is a hazy IPA. It's called Ghost Boots. It's got 3.85 on Untapped, and it's described as kind of using this new experimental hop titled HBC 630, and that's because they haven't named it yet. And it's got aromas of raspberries, cherry, candy, and tropical fruits. I like it. I had some when he was here for Thanksgiving as well. It's got some cool can designs as well. If you're out there, Chicago people, if you go out there for like spring training, I would definitely hit up Bar None and definitely hit up 12 West Brewing for some good local beer there out in Arizona. What about you, man? What do
Yeah.
you got?
Mesa was our spot or is our spot for spring training. So good to hear that you can get some good beer there. So definitely check that out. I'm doing phase three. We've talked about phase three, ad nauseum on this show, but I just wanted to shout them out again. They were just named second best small brewery in the world.
Whoa.
Uh, and that's for breweries producing less than 10,000 barrels per year, as voted on by readers of Beer and Brewing magazine. The beer I have is called Unoya 12, so it's a stout. It's 13.2%. It gets a 4.72 on Untappd. That's the best score that I've
Damn.
ever seen for a beer on this show. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. It's a barrel-aged imperial stout that's blended from Phase 3's Stout Recipe 2, which is aged in Heaven Hill bourbon cask for 18 months, and their Munich Imperial Stout recipe that was aged in Wild Turkey cask for 16 months. So they blend those two beers together. After they blend them, they add toasted and raw coconut and peanut butter. So it's got a strong peanut butter flavor. This is honestly the best stout I've ever had. It's not easy to get your hands on. I was at Fobob, the Festival of Barrel Aged Beer, a couple of weeks back, and they brought out the Unoya 12 probably 10 minutes into Fobab starting, and there was a
Uh-huh.
line of like 30 people deep immediately.
Sought
And I
after.
stood in line. By the time I got up to the front, they had just run out. So
No,
our buddy
no.
Gavin works at phase three. So I was disappointed I didn't get to try this because there was that much demand right off the bat. And he brought me a bottle of this. So I'm pumped about it. And honestly, I can tell you the hype is real, and it's the best stout I've ever had. And I actually had my wife try some. She hates stouts, hates them. Tried this and was like, "This is honestly the best stout I've ever had too." And
Wife
so,
approved.
yeah, wife approved, non-stout drinker
Nice.
herself, and so it's a good beer, great beer. Yeah.
I
So
love
pick
it.
up Unoy 12 if you can get your hands on it. It is a fantastic beer. And again, shout out to Phase 3 and our buddy Gavin who works over there. But Dan, I want to talk about our Bears right off the bat here.
You sure
We'll
about
just
that?
get this
Sure
out
you
of the
want to talk
way.
about it?
Yeah, we'll get this out of the way. No Fields this week, and it's
Yeah.
just incredibly hard to watch this team without him. He makes that offense go. Trevor Siemian, it's brutal watching him play.
The first drive was all right.
Yeah, what was it, the first quarter probably, you're like, okay, maybe they can keep up with the Jets here. Mike White, Trevor Siemian, like who really wants to watch those
Yeah.
two go at it? the Jets ended up, taking a large lead, and we lost a couple of key players here. Mooney,
That's the big
season-ending
takeaway. Yeah.
ankle injury, and Eddie Jackson had a non-contact foot injury on that Garrett Wilson
I think they said
touchdown.
it was Liz Frank fracture, I think. Not
Yeah, I feel
great.
like he's going to be out the
Yeah.
whole year
Yeah.
too. So you're without those guys. Are they going to rush Fields back without Mooney there?
Yeah. So I want to ask you that. There's two schools of thought with Fields right now, right?
Mhm.
Sit him, let him get healthy. We know he's good. He's the future. Play him. Every rep counts. He's still developing, and just kind of letting him kind of sit on the sidelines. He might get stale. He might not improve to where he needs to. Like, game reps are so valuable in the NFL. You only get 17 of them this new elongated season. So where are you at? Are you wanting him to sit? Don't give a shit. Get healthy. You're good. Or is like, dude, get reps. You're a second-year quarterback. All the reps matter.
Yeah, the practice reps matter if you can get him out there and practice and play, but I don't want him to play in the game because I don't want the injury to get worse. And with the loss this
Non-throwing
week,
shoulder. Non-throwing shoulder.
I still, you just want him to be healthy and don't want
He's
to
playing
risk
football.
anything.
That's not going to happen.
Listen, they have the number 2 pick in the 2023 NFL draft after this loss this week because the Panthers won. So do you want to jeopardize that? I mean, when he's on the field, they could win, with him out there. They have the number 2 pick, and I think there's a huge gap from the 2 and the 3 that, it seems like nothing maybe to a lot of fans, 3, 2, whatever. But when you're in the 2 pick, that's a QB pick for most teams, and we could get some picks back. We could move back, to 4 or 5 or 6
Yeah.
and get a good wide receiver and a boatload of picks like for years to come with the number 2 spot. I mean, look at what the 49ers did when we moved up for Mitch. They got a boatload of picks for him. I just think where they're at right now, this is where you want to end the season, is with the number 2 pick. So maybe you sit him one more game, 2 more games, and he's 100% healthy, and then you have no reason to hold him out anymore.
Because we
Then
have
you
this
put him
next
back in
week
there.
and then our bye week. And then you're
But
saying
if he's
maybe
50
after
50,
that.
or if he's 75-25 even, I would sit him. And he's got to be 100% healthy for us to want to put him back out there and risk our draft pick that we have right now.
Play him.
You want to play him immediately, like next week?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to win a game anyways with this defense. And then we also have Eddie Jackson out there that's no longer going to be playing. The defense is like maybe 2 starters, like our corners, and both of our young guys had concussions, or we had 2 secondaries that had concussions this last week. They weren't playing. This defense is atrocious. So with that being said, I think you put Fields out there, and it's up to him, right? You ask him if he's healthy enough. I mean, it's his non-throwing shoulder. He was throwing the ball around pregame this last week. So I think all snap counts matter. I think putting him out there and just getting that experience to play, maybe a little battered and bruised, like, the team respects him, the players respect him, but also that's how his body's going to be feeling in the playoffs, going down to the wire, wanting to play the big game. This idea of just like bubble wrapping players and, saving them from what, right? They're paid to play the game. I understand resting them, but it's his non-throwing shoulder. I don't know if he could hurt it any worse. So put him out there, man. Get the reps. I want to see this guy play as much as possible in his second year in the NFL.
Look, here's their upcoming schedule. You got Green Bay next week with Rodgers hurt. Jordan Love's probably going to start for them. That's a winnable game, in my opinion. Even with our terrible defense, I think, Jordan Love had a couple nice drives against Philly the other night, but he's not a stud by any means. And I think we could win that game if we have Fields out there. We literally could win that game. And then the week after that is a bye week.
Yeah.
So you hold him out one more week. You don't play him against Green Bay. You got the bye week. Then you get Philly and Buffalo the next 2 weeks. We're not winning either of those, I think, even with him out there. And then Detroit week 17.
Would you say it's valuable for him to get reps against 2 Super Bowl contenders? Or are you saying, nope?
Yeah.
Just
avoid
the competition.
No, I think, looking at the schedule, I would say hold him out next week. You get the bye. He should be healthy by week 15. Plays Philly and Buffalo. You play him out there for 2-3 quarters. By the time we're getting blown out, yank him out of there. Give him some reps against those good defenses, and then play him against Detroit week 17, and that's your season.
Yeah.
we can.
All
Yeah,
right.
so that's what I think. I
Yeah,
would
it's wrong, but
err on
that's
the
all right.
side err on the side of caution. Another thing I wanted to mention here, Jack Sanborn.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lake Zurich. 14 tackles in this game.
Dude,
Led the
this guy's
team.
he's gonna be a long time Bear. Can you feel it? You could feel it with this guy. His
Yeah.
name sounds, like he sounds like a classic Chicago linebacker. I don't know why. He sounds like he could be working in the kitchen somewhere in like a Chicago restaurant, right? Old Jackie boy, Jack Samber. I don't know. And then
Yeah.
he's out there, his neck's like 10 inches thick. Like he's got the biggest neck I've ever seen in my entire life. And he's just mowing people down. Sign him up. Sign him up for life. Put him out there.
Yeah. Sign him up for life. All right. Speaking of extensions, Billy
Yeah.
Donovan
Yeah.
extension was like leaked by Shams today. What was that about? They added 4 years onto his deal, and no one knew about it until Shams mentioned it today. I don't know if you heard it in passing or what, but
I
they
now
did it
seen
before
some.
the start of the season. So we're what
Yeah.
20 games in now. The Bulls are 9-11, and now they're saying, "Oh yeah, that's right, sign him to 4 years." What's that about?
They're just kind of saying that's just, that's Jerry Reinsdorf. I mean, he kind of does this stuff. Same thing with some of the players. I mean, the White Sox are being talked about right now, and their disappointing season and all the weird kind of sketchy things he did with La Russa, not doing an actual process. Like he's very like old school, doesn't leak things. Will give like an extension to a coach and not tell anybody until it kind of maybe came out in conversation, or maybe Billy slipped up and said something. He'd be here long. I don't know what happened, but unfortunately it's Reinsdorf, and a lot of fans don't like that guy on both teams that he owns.
Why are you
I'm okay
hiding
with
that?
it.
What's there to hide?
Yeah,
Why
like
would you
what's the
hide it?
gain? I have no idea. He just doesn't want to talk about it. Doesn't want to be in the headlines. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he thought he was doing Billy a favor, not telling anyone and not taking a focus on him or anything, and seeing how this season plays out. I have no idea why.
So do you think Billy's the reason why they're 9-11 here?
No,
12th in the East, 4-6 in their last 10. I think
no.
they're 5-5 at home.
Yeah.
There's home and away. There's no advantage here when they're playing at the UC. I mean, what's going on? What are you seeing
Yeah.
with this team,
I
Dan?
I
And
read an article the other day by I think it's Michael Pina on the I just butchered his name. I don't know. Sorry about that. But it's on the Ringer. It's titled "The Bulls Are the NBA's Most Depressing Team." And there's a couple stats in there that he brings up. It's like we have one of the worst I forget the stat, but it's like not true shooting percentage, but we're like one of the worst shooting teams, or one of the unluckiest shooting teams in the NBA this year. Like the ball's just not going in. Zach does not look great. I think he's having
unlucky. Wait, hold on. Unluckiest shooting team. What does that
I don't
even
know
mean?
what the stat was, but it was like you get a wide open look. You know what I mean? And like your percentages of making wide open jump shots.
So just bad. You're
Just
bad if you miss a wide
just
open. It's not
yeah.
unlucky. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's like Sabermetrics has a stat for it, so you can measure teams that are bad at
Okay.
shooting, and we're one of them. Zach's having a career worst year shooting. Also does not look healthy. Looks like not a max player. Is a deficit on the defensive end. DeMar, I mean, he pretty much, it's a one-on-one show. Like the ball is very stagnant. He's not an offensive player for team chemistry. He's an offensive player for like DeMar DeRozan. So that hurts. Our 3-point shooting is terrible again. Patrick Williams isn't developing to be that power forward that we want him to be. And like reading this article, you just feel absolutely miserable about the state of the Bulls. And he's saying that, this might be a position at 9-11. We're closer to the bottom of the NBA than the top. It's a generational draft with obviously the number one pick being Wembenyama, I believe, Victor. It's like that French guy. He's like 7'3". He's just amazing. But there's also other like talents there too. So this guy was bringing up, maybe you trade Zach, DeMar, Vooch if you can to contenders. You give like Patrick Williams kind of like the limelight, Dalen Terry playing time, these young guys. Keep Goran Dragic there as like the veteran presence, and just see what you got. And maybe you take the rest of the season, but you get a lot of money off the books and you free some things up. And we're top 4 protected pick in this next year. So if we become one of the bottom 4 teams, we get our first overall pick back, and it's a draft that can change the, course of a franchise. I don't know. It was very,
What are you gonna get for those guys? You just said yourself, Levine's playing like shit and he's injured. What are you going to get for him? Are you going to get first rounder for Zach LaVine?
Yeah, you would, I think, for a contending
Like a late
team.
first?
I keep looking at like the Lakers, or I think Phoenix. He brings them up Phoenix Suns with DeMar. Like imagine Booker, Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, and DeMar DeRozan and DeAndre Ayton. Like, does Phoenix go all in with that? Yeah, I think you keep playing this out and see if we keep playing like shit like this and losing games. Maybe you try to sell those pieces off to the teams that want to win the ship, and that teams are always making those moves year in and year out. And maybe we're in that position now to where, the window is closed a year after it is open. It sucks, man. I don't like where we're at.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from the Bulls and let's move over to the World Cup, which we haven't talked about yet
At all.
at all. So there was a big game today. The USA beat Iran
Yep.
1-0. There was a lot of, I think, political talk.
Yeah, there's some
surrounding
things that
this.
happened before where like USA's Twitter posted their matchup with the flags and took like the Islamic State logo off of it because there's a lot of protests for how they treat women. But it was like, not every Islam is, radical. So like it was a bad look. Iran was pissed, but whatever. It's sports. So let's talk sports. Yeah. It was a win or go home game. Really. It was literally, if we don't beat Iran, World Cup's over. After 8 years of waiting, we could not even make it past the play-in round. I was watching this game and we absolutely dominated like the first 30 minutes, like crosses, attempts, like the ball was on their side of the field, like for the most of the first half. And then, Christian Pulisic has this amazing run at the net on a cross and just puts it in for the first goal. Gets hurt while doing it because he pretty much runs into the keeper as he's tapping it in. Comes back in a little bit here and there, and there was like 3 minutes left before halftime, and then didn't come out in the second half. And pretty much the second half was like, hold your breath. USA is just going to play conservative and defend and hope the time runs out. And that's what ended up happening. There was a play in stoppage time. There's 9 minutes in stoppage time, which is like an eternity in soccer if you follow it. And like with about 7 minutes in, there was a cross from Iran, and a guy like headed it and it was just left. And then there's another cross and the guy went to kick it and it was just wide right. And then there was an attempt for them to get in there. The ball was getting kicked around. They're in the goal box, and one of our players like had his hand on the back and pulled him down, and they wanted a penalty kick, but the ref decided not to. No foul play on. USA ball. Time ran out. We're moving on. We're playing this Saturday against the Netherlands.
Wow.
Single elimination tournament time now. It's huge, man. It's huge for USA soccer. Hopefully, we're the third youngest team in this whole entire tournament. Hopefully, a lot of kids are watching it here, and this will continue the trend with young talent playing for the USA.
Yeah, so a couple insights I have here. Iran has failed to get past the opening group phase at each of their 6 World Cup appearances. And that's 18 games total. The USA have now reached the knockout stages of the World Cup in 3 consecutive appearances, doing so in 2010 and 2014 as well. So, yeah, just looking at the stats here, 12 shots for the USA, 4 shots for Iran. I mean, it looks pretty lopsided when you look at the stats, but having that insight from you, it seemed like a closer game at the end there than
it was like heart attack city at the end. Like, just get the ball out, clear it out. And like our players some of them played the whole game and just exhausted. And Iran was having so many opportunities at the end, and they just, luckily couldn't convert. But enough about that matchup. I got a more intriguing matchup that I would like to talk about, and maybe you could start by talking about it. Was our fantasy football matchup. We played each other in the league that you run.
Yep.
And what happened?
Yeah, that's our number 1 fantasy league right there.
You're in what, first place?
I'm still in first, surprisingly, after this week, but and you were in 9th out of 10, and you kicked my ass. I mean, 177, I think 126. Josh Jacobs. I mean, no one playing against Josh Jacobs this week was going to win. Jacobs dropped 49 points on me, I think. Had that major run in overtime to put it away. But you were up, I think, before that anyways. And, it was tough. I lost Najee and McCaffrey, both went out with injuries.
And then
Played
Cooper
Tyler
Kupp weeks
Boyd. That
ago.
was just, lost Cooper Kupp already. Lost Javonte Williams. It's been a lot of injuries for me, but no excuse. There was nothing I could do this week. You dropped the most points in the league this week. So Cheers to that, Dan.
Appreciate it. League's close too. I think I went from like 9th to 7th, and a lot of teams with like six losses,
Yeah, it's
seven
crazy.
losses in there.
Five teams at 7-5. We have one at 6-6, and then we've got three at 5-7, and then one person who's eliminated at 4-8 going into week 13. 2 weeks left in the regular season. I mean, potentially 9 different teams could make it into the postseason at this point. It's all going to
Yeah.
come down to these last 2 weeks. I've never seen a fantasy league that close, and
Mhm.
honestly, the whole league's up for grabs. I don't know who's going to win this year. Pretty interesting fantasy year so far. I
It's
think,
been fun.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. There's been, some injuries along the way, but, um,
All right.
you know,
Speaking of fun, injuries, sports. I want to put you on the clock. I thought it would be fun for us,
okay,
just doing this episode, me and you, to start asking each other kind of maybe random questions that you might not know the answer to, but we certainly do, and it's fun to kind of quiz each other. So, I'm a big basketball fan. You know that college hoops is started, and currently, right now, one of my favorite things is like the ACC Big Ten Challenge is going on. A lot of those preseason tournaments have already happened, where they go to like the Cayman Islands and all that. So there's been about like 5 or 6 games that have been played, and we got a top 10. We got a ranking.
okay,
And I want you to list some teams that you think are possibly in the top 10, and I'll tell you how many you got right. So you get 10 guesses for teams in the top 10, and we'll see. I feel like I did this
okay.
to you last year and you did pretty well.
All right, I'm going to say UNC.
Okay.
I'm going to say Duke,
All right.
Gonzaga.
Okay.
We're going to go with Michigan State.
All right.
Really? Okay. That one was a shot in the dark.
Oh,
Uh,
I haven't
I'm
told you if
gonna,
you got them right or wrong yet. I'm just
oh, okay.
keeping track of your 10
I'm gonna go.
guesses.
I'm gonna go Purdue.
Okay.
I'm gonna say. Hmm, let's go with Texas.
Okay.
Let's go with. Uh, I like Marquette. I'm gonna go with Marquette. There's no way they're in the top 10.
Okay. And 2 more.
And I'm gonna go with. Let's go with. Let's round it out with. Did I say Kentucky already? Let's go with Kentucky.
And last one.
Then we'll go with. Oh, you know what? How can I not? How can I leave out Kansas and Villanova? I'm just gonna go with Villanova as one.
All
Of
right,
those.
Evan, you got 2 right. 2 out of
Wow.
the top 10. Yeah, a lot of blue bloods that are typically in there aren't in there. The ones you got right were Purdue and Texas. Number 1
All
team in the
right.
country right now, Houston. So starting
That's
with number
surprising.
1, I'll run down the list 1 through 10. All right, and then you're up. So number 1's Houston, number 2 is Texas, number 3 is Virginia, 4 Arizona, 5 Purdue, 6 Baylor, 7 Creighton, 8 UConn, 9 Kansas, and 10 Indiana. There it is. Top 10 teams right now. Yeah, it's not your usual suspects there.
Yeah, that is crazy. I would not have guessed that at all.
Well, you didn't. You only got 2 right.
All right.
You did
All
it.
right. So as of today, then let's move over to college football. Then.
Okay.
And give me the top 4 teams. If the season ended today, who would be in the college football playoff?
I know this because I was talking to my brother who works at one of the universities, Southern California. So
Okay.
USC would be in there, TCU, Michigan, and Georgia.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, those are a lot of those teams, outside of Georgia, I would say.
He
The other
was talking
3.
to me about like the campus life right now because they are in that playoff that
Mhm.
like they're getting told that kids might get dismissed early. They might have to miss like because it's almost like final exam time as well going into winter break. It's like, yeah, just dismiss them. Just let them go. Football's more important.
Wow. Is there a reason you think him being a USC fan, I would guess, having worked there or working there,
Yeah.
that they're in at 11-1 over Ohio State at 11-1?
Yeah, I mean that's I don't know, it's up to the people who
Strength of
make those
schedule.
decisions, but yeah, it's always like strength of schedule, margin of victory, and just like the eye test sometimes. They played really well this year. It's fun. They got one of the best, like their Heisman, the quarterback's up for Heisman, probably will win it. transferred over with the coach from Oklahoma, right? Both of them transferred over, and they had like 15 transfers come in to set that program back on track. And they finally got it, man. That program's been struggling for a long time. They're kind of finally back where they think they should be.
Yeah, since
Evan,
like when Reggie Bush was there. I mean, it's been
yeah,
a long time.
pretty much since Pete Carroll left. Evan, what's the best side dish during Thanksgiving?
The best side dish?
Mhm.
I'm a big stuffing fan. I like to take the stuffing and mash it up with the mashed potatoes and the corn and kind of do one big thing with those three. So it's kind of a cheating answer, but I would say those three together. What about you?
Mac and cheese, man. I like the baked mac and cheese.
No mac and cheese at ours
No,
or Thanksgiving. No, I didn't know.
not
Is that a
not our
Thanksgiving staple?
Thanksgiving. I
I had
think so.
three. I had three family get-togethers Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Didn't have mac and cheese at any of them. So I'm not.
Huh.
I didn't know that was a big Thanksgiving thing.
Yeah, I grew up with my mom's like baked. It's like a baked mac and cheese, right? It's not the creamy, so it's like a casserole type of dish baked. And then since me and my wife have been married, we do it every Thanksgiving as well, together. I think it's great. Stuffing has never been my favorite. That was a wild card play by you. Stuffing is your top
No.
side dish is
Yeah,
wild.
you throw some ground beef in there. You gotta change it
Round
up a little
beef
bit. Yeah, you gotta do a little beef in there with a little bit of meat inside the stuffing. It's the best. Yeah.
inside the stuffing. What does your
Oh yeah.
stuffing look like? Is
It
it
looks
not
like
just
regular
like
stuffing. It's
breadcrumbs
like
and like
bread,
celery?
crumb. No, there's no celery in there. No.
This is interesting. Every family's got their own like recipe. I feel like it's different all around. Best dessert? Do you like
Yeah,
pumpkin
it's
pie,
like
sweet potatoes?
the pumpkin pie for sure. Sweet potatoes isn't a dessert. That's part of the meal, man.
It's
That's
part of it.
yeah, that's part of it. The
Okay.
pumpkin pie for sure with a lot of whipped cream. What about you?
And do you yeah, I like the pumpkin pie for sure. And then sweet potatoes are always there, but I would prefer the pie. Are you a cranberry guy? Do you put it on to kind of give that acidic little slice to cut all those bold flavors?
No, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of the cranberry. We don't
I
really
never was growing
it's
up.
on the table, but it's not getting used. That's what's happening at our Thanksgiving.
Something,
Yeah.
but the last few years I've been a fan of it, but never growing up. Not the tube
No?
of like ocean spray cranberry, but lately I've been doing it, and I've been having leftovers here for
I
the
don't want
last
a
like
tube of
5 days.
anything. I don't want a tube of anything on Thanksgiving. Let me tell you that.
Yeah. Speaking of Thanksgiving, last question I got. All right, and then you can
Okay.
finish this off. How many viewers? All-time high viewing for the Dallas Cowboys Giants Thanksgiving football game. How many viewers?
I'm gonna go with did see that this was the most watched day of football, I think, on a Thanksgiving ever. I'm gonna go with 8 million.
8 million.
Yeah.
Try 42.
42 million.
America loves football.
Wow. That's a big number. All right. All right, let's move over to our waiver wire Wednesday with
Let's do it.
fantasy football crunch time coming down to the wire here. And before we get into that, I guess we'll talk about the Flop Fantasy Football League of Podcast standings. We are in fourth place.
There we go.
Wolfpack Fantasy Football Podcast is out in first at 11-1. Unbelievable start by them. Official Butthole in second, who won last year. So
That's right.
they're at 8-4, as well as us and Flex Fantasy Football and Sports Dude Hines, all at 8-4. Sports Nonsense Whiskey and the Fantasy Football Schmucks, they're vying for a playoff spot. So we are in the playoffs right now, looking good. 2 weeks left. I think we're going to make it. Haven't clinched yet, though, but we might need to be making some moves here because we lost Darnell Mooney. So let me get into the waiver wire and tell you who's available.
Let's
So
do
if
it.
you're looking for a quarterback, Deshaun Watson's the number one quarterback pickup. As much as nobody wants to pick him up, if he's out there, I would grab him. Another quarterback name, Jordan Love, gets the Bears this week. I talked about how good he was against Philly, for the couple drives that he was in there. I mean, the Bears defense is bad. He could be getting some points there. So if you
Mhm.
need a quarterback, he's got a great matchup. We'll see what happens there. I guess this is a good test for Packers fans of what's to come if Aaron Rodgers is done after this year. If you need a running back, Zonovan Bam Knight is the undrafted free agent rookie that was playing behind Michael Carter this week. Michael Carter may miss the next week or two with an injury. Knight's only 3% owned, so he's the Jets' backup. He's out there. I think he's a decent play this week. Jermichael Hasty took over for ETN, who went out with a foot injury. He is supposedly going to be back this week, so something to monitor throughout the week. I don't know that I'd waste a waiver claim on Hasty, but it's somebody that I'd keep an eye on. Same with Benny Snell. Najee Harris left the game with an abs injury, and Jalen Warren has a hamstring injury. So Snell might be a decent pickup. Again, he's only 1% owned, so somebody to watch throughout the week. I'm not sure if people are going to be burning waiver claims on him, but somebody that I would use a waiver claim on would be Treylon Burks, who's 51% owned. He's got 18 and 17 points back-to-back weeks. He's, the de facto number one for the Titans.
Yeah.
And then Zay Jones is 26% owned. He's got back-to-back games with 10+ targets. With Trevor Lawrence, he looks really good. And then I've talked about Donovan Peoples-Jones the last couple of weeks, and Deshaun Watson's coming back. And, Peoples-Jones is playing more snaps than Amari Cooper is, and he's a downfield threat. So I think he matches up good with Watson's skill set. So that's somebody that I would look for too. If you need a tight end, it's really brutal out there right now. I think Foster Moreau is a decent pickup, 39% owned. He's been a pretty reliable target for Derek Carr. And then Hayden Hurst, 65% owned. If he's out there, he's a decent dart throw on any given week. And as far as defense goes, Cleveland plays Houston this week, and Seattle plays the Rams, who are without Stafford and Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald's going to be out. They're going to be so bad. So I think anybody playing against the Rams throughout the rest of the year, I would grab them off the waiver wire there. So
nice.
Those are your
there
pickups for this week.
It's a important time for fantasy football. These are the injuries happen. You pick up the backup or the rookie who's kind of finding their footing here, and they just have those games that win you a championship.
I would have never guessed at the beginning of the season that I would be telling people to pick up Jermichael Hasty potentially, or Zonovan Knight. I didn't even know that was a person until this weekend.
But here we are.
So, all right, let's get into your week 13 picks. Dan, how did you do this last week?
12-4. Oh, and without
Big
Bears,
week.
I would have been 13-3. You would have won a lot of money, man.
A lot of money. All right, let's look at Thursday. We got Bills at Patriots.
Bills.
And Sunday, we got Steelers at Falcons.
Falcons.
Broncos at Ravens.
Ravens.
Packers at Bears.
Bears.
All right, Jags at Lions.
Jaguars.
Browns at Texans.
Browns.
Jets at Vikings.
Vikings.
Commanders at Giants.
Giants.
Titans at Eagles.
Titans.
Yeah, I smell an upset right there too.
Yeah.
Seahawks at Rams.
Seahawks.
Dolphins at 49ers.
Fins up.
Chiefs at Bengals.
Bengals.
Chargers at Raiders.
Raiders.
Colts at Cowboys.
Cowboys.
And the Monday night is going to be Saints at Bucks.
Buccaneers.
All right, there you have it. There's your week 13 picks. Lock them into your parlays for the weekend. All right, Dan, I got a fast fact for you. What is the number one beer as voted on by readers of Beer and Brewing Magazine? We talked about them at the top of the show when we talked about phase 3. The number one beer the last 2 years. 2 years running.
This is a macro?
It's I'll give you this. It's a pale ale. It's a pretty well-known
ale.
beer.
Is it Fat Tire?
No, it's not. It's Sierra Nevada.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the classic pale ale has been number one 2 years in a row. It's beating out every other beer here. Some big names, Odell IPA is up there at number 2. Bell's Brewery was number 5 with the Two Hearted IPA. Allagash White, number 6. Guinness Extra Stout, number 7. So you got some, well-known beers up there. And
might have to give him a shout out on the show. Help him out. Help the small guy out.
Help the small guy out. Help out Sierra Nevada, right? They need some help.
Yep.
All right. That's been our show. Thanks again for joining us today. For Dan Sloak, I'm Evan Bierman. You've been listening to the Domestic Draft Podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to rate the show You can find us on Twitter at Domestic Draft, on Instagram at Domestic Draft Podcast. Our website is domesticdraft.com, and you can watch the show on YouTube. Just search up Domestic Draft and drop us a sub. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.